Of course, it's a Friday morning. Good morning, and this is Off the Press, the newspaper review program. We will be looking at newspapers as we do a couple of them in this program and try to make sense of it. And with me to do so this morning, again, is Asiwaju Abayomi-Oke, who is a public affairs analyst, and Dickson Osajie, who is a security expert. There's a lot to talk about on security, so it's good to have you again, gentlemen.
Yeah, happy Valentine.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I see you're dressed in the apparel. Mine is a coincidence. Mine is a coincidence. Anyways, let's go straight into the business of the day. We'll begin with the Punch newspaper. I believe it will be displayed now. And it says, Nigeria's oil exports fall as explosion rocks pipeline. That story, thank you very much, is already displayed there on your screen. That story is on page 28 of the Punch newspaper. And to the top left, Southwest Governors IG adopt model for Amotekun on page 7. And 4 directors arraigned for fraudulent matters. That's on 2.5 billion pounds, I believe, refinery projects on page 9. Opposition hired miscreants to boo Buhari in Borno. That's according to the presidency. We'll come to that matter, really. And that's on page 18 of the Punch newspaper. The big story for the Punch newspaper, but before we get there, 1999-2003 elections results missing, says INEC. Find out why they chose to go back in time to dig out this information. It's on page 8, actually. Senate summons AGF, CBN governor, others over 596 billion naira ecological fund. The story is on page 28. Now let's look at the big story. Uncertainty surrounds Bayelsa as Supreme Court sacks APC Leon. That's on page 2. Governor-elect sacked for deputies, forged certificates. PDP candidates didn't score 25% of lawful votes, according to Oshiomhole. And INEC to study judgment awaits commission lawyers' advice. All of this will unfold in the coming days, I believe. We have picture stories of people, I guess, jubilating over the Supreme Court judgment there. That's it, already displayed. And to the right also, we have a couple of picture stories. Please grab a copy of the Punch newspaper for details. But before you do that, Achievers Varsity expels 6 students for cultism on pages 4 and 5. The name of that university sounds interesting to me, Achievers. Again, gunmen kill 7, injure 5 in Kaduna attack on page 8. Subscribers must explain need for new mobile lines, according to Minister on page 25. That's the Minister of Information, I believe, they're talking. Now, Oyo revokes Agodi Jericho GRA land. Ajimobi fumes on page 34. 4 arrested as Yoruba Hausa clash in Ogun. Fire God's Market raises church in Lagos, Ogun. These and more you find on pages 4 and 5 of the Punch newspaper. And finally, Lagos-bound passengers stranded in Ghana and Senegal. That's on 25, page 25. Please find out why they are stranded and won't come down. Now let's go to the newspaper. I'll begin with you, Abayomi.
Yeah.
Which of the stories is catching your attention?
Let's talk about the main, the big story, like you said. Which is the Bayelsa, like yesterday evening, it just went viral, and we're all shocked. Like, someone who had been preparing for his inauguration today. As a matter of fact, we saw him having his rehearsals, on the ground of the inauguration, and then 2 hours later, he was declared by Supreme Court as not to be the governor.
What do you term this? What do you make of it?
There are so many intrigues that's associated with what actually happened. But the one thing I just want us to point out is the reason for the disqualification, or the reason for the judgment. Now, the deputy governor-elect was alleged to have forged a certificate. Now, forgery in what sense? The truth of the matter is that he had different names on his credentials. We are made to understand that Biobarakum Degi Eremieyo, one name, Degi Biobara, another name, Degi Biobarakum, another name, Adegi Biobakum, another name, Degi, about 4 or 5 names on different
certificates. So the problem is the arrangement of the
names
and the names.
Even some names were actually substituted, and another name was just like my name is Abayomi Ishola. Okay. Now if probably my primary certificate is reading Abayomi without Ishola. And secondary is reading Abayomi Ishola. Is this still the same person? No, truly. I've worked as a banker before, and anytime we have such issue, if there is a variance in the name on your ID card and the name on your form, then we will not open that account.
But without playing the role of a devil's advocate, right? Would you think sometimes people are just ignorant? I'm just saying, because if he has, I'm not taking sides, but supposing as a child, his parents they went to school and they registered him in primary school and they called one of the names. And then when he gets to secondary school, he realizes that another name is his name, and he chose that, and it's his name, and he puts it. So if it's a question of, arrangement of names, is it forgery?
It's even beyond arrangement.
Okay. Let's proceed.
That's why I deliberately read the names out.
Let's proceed.
Biobaram Degi Remionyo and Degi Biobaram without the Remionyo again, like a compound name. Do you understand? But the point there is this: like you are trying to come to his side by saying probably it's his parents' fault.
I'm just saying, I'm
saying you have quite a lot of time to have corrected this. Okay. I'm a father too. I have 2 kids. I'm still contemplating on the official name I want to give them. You understand? Yes, I've registered their name with National Population Census, but I may still go back and say, okay, no, this is the real name I want my kids. One, they've not even had their primary certificate, so it's still safe for them. Now we can begin to correct. That's why I want to. Anybody that even wants to venture into politics must ensure that their past is well tidied up. Now, that's one angle. Another angle to this is... I suppose that's a lesson there. Yes, another angle to this is, anytime you want to contest like this, DSS does what we call vetting. I have contested before, and then we went through vetting at the DSS headquarters in my state. Didn't they notice this?
Is that in the DSS desk also? Is that part of?
Yes, it's part, because they actually requested for our certificates, and they are to even go back to our schools to confirm if those certificates are genuine from the schools that we claim to have graduated from. So there is a lack somewhere. So something is wrong somewhere. Then I look at it. You should have envisaged that something like this will come up eventually. We need to prepare well for it. Then, secondly, why do they have to tie the destiny of the governor and his deputy together like a Siamese twins? In the case of Kogi State, when Audu Abubakar died, what's his name? Femi Faleke. Faleke, the man in the House of Rep now representing Ikeja Federal Constituency, was his running mate. They said he cannot take over. He cannot assume the governorship ticket at that particular time, and that was what brought GYB into the whole. Yakubu Bello into the whole scene. Now, in his own case, now, if it were just to be the deputy that had issue, why not just exempt or remove the deputy and then replace the deputy and let the governor be sworn in? Let
me ask Osajie what he thinks. Yes. What
the law sometimes can be very, very interesting.
Well, what if perhaps the deputy has much crowd that gave them that winning?
No, it's not about crowd here. But
no, I'm trying to say now. For example, now let's assume that the deputy is more, recognized, more popular in the state, and because of his ties with the governor, he gained more votes to push the party to victory. You see, this judgment by the Supreme Court, I called it a kind of a deterrence measures, in the sense that we need to start doing things right. We need to start knowing that we will pay the price someday. Yes, while we were discussing with Asiwaju in the reception, I told him that this just took my mindset some few years back when I wanted disengaging from the military. Now, I was discussing with a senior officer that I'm going to US Marine. I want to leave this job. On Wednesday, I'm packing out of the barrack. You know what he told me? He said, if you leave, you'll be a deserter, and you'll be a deserter for life. And peradventure, you become a senator or a governor tomorrow, your past will haunt you. Why not apply for voluntary retirement, disengagement? I hearkened to his advice, and what I did is that I applied for voluntary. The chief of army staff then was General Martin Luther Aguai. He approved my voluntary retirement, and I became a voluntary discharge soldier, voluntarily. Now, perhaps I had left that period of time without following the process, I don't think I'll be on air today. Somebody will call your MD and say, hey, that guy talking is a runaway soldier. Your history will always haunt you. So this judgment is a kind of deterrence measures for our youth, our citizens, our society, to know that whatever they do today, they will definitely pay tomorrow, because he credited this negativity some years back and he's paying the price.
So follow due process at all times.
Another implication is who becomes the governor today.
Well, there'll be no governor.
They should come out.
I saw a news flash now, though unconfirmed, that the Speaker of the House.
Well, we don't have that information.
Yes,
we don't have that information. We will see as it unfolds.
Yeah.
It's a big, whole, complex issue. So we'll just.
I hope you learned from that too.
Well, I may not be present. Well, okay. let's talk about other issues on the newspaper. Away from the drama that is still unfolding, we will say it's still unfolding because we know by 24 hours we'll still see more sides to that story that broke yesterday. Which other story is getting your attention? Southwest governors and Amotekun. Amotekun is still there. And opposition hired miscreants to boo Buhari in Borno. Let's talk about that as a security expert.
Borno, I don't know, I think it's an APC state. And, you know, whenever an incident happens, we should try not to paint it. And it contributes to insecurity. That is the problem we're having in this country. We like talking too much, most especially our political leaders. Because I've told the National Assembly that the problem we're having today were planted by them. In the 2019 election, we were here. We saw what went wrong. We saw how they mismanage our youth. We saw how they push our youth to violence. We saw how our youth plied the highway to go and orchestrate crime, burning a woman alive in Kogi State, killing people, while we have soldiers and police on the checkpoints, which is to say that security has been compromised. We saw where our youth were snatching ballot boxes. If you're not a contestant, for example, you don't have right to go and snatch boxes. That means you are being instigated. Now, looking at those instigation factors that were orchestrated or motivated by our political leaders, they are paying the price now because they credited those negativity in the past and they are paying the debts. You understand what I'm saying? So we must learn to understand that whatever we plant today in our youth is going to unfold later on. But I disagree that you know, it's collective. Just like somebody just come and say, 3 of you, go and protest against something like that, and you have a mass crowd. At least, definitely, there should be, let me say, opposition that will counter that booing. But I felt the people of Maiduguri have suffered a lot from insecurity. They feel the pain, they feel the lack of military strategies, and they just decided to let the president know that we're not happy. Booing doesn't mean that the president is stupid. Booing simply implies that we're not happy with what's happening here. So go and adopt a new strategy, and that is why I've called on the military to revamp their operational methodology.
So that's a statement that they have made, you're saying. All right, we'll go to the Nation newspaper in the interest of time, and it would be displayed. Ajimobi sues Makinde over land revocation. Ex-governor seeks damages on page 40, already displayed there on your screen of the Nation newspaper. Lassa fever death toll hits 70,472 cases in 26 states. That's a scary number there on page 41. Please grab a copy to know what that's about. And rain of tributes for high life musician Olaiya, who passed on, I think, 2 days now. God rest him. Buhari and others mourn him. That story is on page 41. We ask God to receive his soul. And still on the Nation newspaper, all firm directors remanded for some amount of money there on page 42. Please grab a copy. And IG Southwest Governors Unite on Operation Amotekun. We've talked about that. It's on the front page there, but it's continued on page 43 of the Nation newspaper. Leon out, Diri hopeful as INEC reviews judgment. Now, Supreme Court nullifies Bayelsa Governor-elect victory. This story is still unfolding. So in the coming days, like I said, before 24 hours, we should be able to see other sides of the story. Unemployed figures hit 23 million. That's on page 11. Find out where the data is from and how so. More Cameroonians flee into Nigeria over violence. That's on page 46. I will come to you, Mr. Osajie, because it's your area in terms of security. What are your thoughts? when we talk about border control and we talk about violence, we talk about people, we talk about security for lives also. Now, with us hearing, when we hear things like more people are coming into our country, we know they are fleeing violence, but how are we prepared? How ready are we? How safe are we as those to whom, people are seeking refuge in their land? Okay,
like for we now, when conflict erupts, a lot of people want to flee the country, and some people want to stay. Those that are staying without homes, we call them internally displaced persons. Yeah. When you leave the offshore of your land to another man's land, you become a refugee. So they come into Nigeria and they are refugees. And our internally displaced people have not been well taken care of. They're not eating well. They're not even well monitored. And for these guys to be flying into Nigeria to come and seek refuge, I think it calls for worry. But another thing we must understand is that there's a treaty for that, because you cannot deny the people coming to your country, and that is where the law of non-refoulement comes to play. Law of non-refoulement in the United Nations Chartered agreement states very clear that you have no right to return somebody back to his homeland where there is violence or where there is war. So you don't have the right to refoul that person. So we cannot refoul any of these guys. But what we have to do is that we need to get them on board, get their biometrics, get their details, get a space for them to stay in pending when the violence would be erupted.
And are we able to do that in terms of biometrics and data?
Yeah, that is where we are poor. We are not doing that well. But I'm so happy with the present leadership of the Nigerian Immigration Service. They are bringing in 21st century digital operations into our system. I was in the immigration headquarters to go and inspect the activities sometime last year, and I went to the data department, whereby if you are coming into this country, your data, your information, your data will be captured, and if your data is not captured between the next 6 months, I think it will be elapsing this February or March, you'll be declared an irregular migrant, because sometimes Nigerians used to say we have illegal migrants. By default, no human being is illegal. Yeah. You understand? So we either have a regular or irregular migrant. So those irregular migrants, the Nigerian immigration are dealing with it very intensively.
Okay. All right. Let me come to you now. We've talked about, we don't want to go to issues that we've already talked about. So
let me talk about
Lassa fever?
No, Ajimobi.
Okay.
Ajimobi, he has currently sued his successor, Makinde, over land revocation. You see, there are some. For me, I feel some issues are so petty that we should not, be treating.
Why so? Why do you think it's petty?
Why? It's just common in Nigeria that if you are not in the same party, you tend to witch-hunt the other person. You've come into power. Okay, can you just focus on business of the day? Can you just focus on governance and leave this issue of trying to witch-hunt or trying to get back at your opponent and or the opposition? Take a cue from Ogun State, Governor Diri. This guy absorbed 1,000 employed youth by the last government, which was actually at the twilight of their own, of their tenure. But this guy absorbed them. Even about 19 permanent secretaries, he also still absorbed them. So he's not after. He has oftentimes said it that he's not after witch-hunting any past government or trying to look into their past and all that. All he wants to do is give Ogun people a better life. And I think all other governors should also follow suit. Forget about the past and let's move on. Why would you revoke a land that this guy has due and genuine papers for, just because you are not on the same page?
All right, I want to give you a chance to speak for 2 seconds.
Yes, on the paper review, the unemployment is a worrisome situation. And that is why, the insurgents, what they do in their political strategies, they carry out a system of persuasion, subversion, and coercion. They persuade our citizens. Part of what they use in persuading our citizens is to balance their own political strategy with the state strategy. Now they tell our youth, hey, government cannot provide you a job. We have a good job for you, pay you well. So the vulnerability of our state is that they are taking the spate of unemployment as a joke. Because if you don't give the citizens a job, which is classified as a psychological murder, the enemy's offer is a welcome development.
No matter how little or unreasonable it may sound.
That's even what the political elites usually do. They deliberately impoverish the youth, so that anytime they offer them stipends, they will jump at it. And that's why somebody will how can a young man of 28 years decide to carry a gun and want to go and kill somebody just because of a candidate? And and that candidate has his own children as well. Why not
well
say
abroad.
Doing well abroad? Why not say, sir, use your first son for this assignment?
All right,
You know?
I agree with
Nigeria
you.
will be a better place, trust me.
I
Yeah, I
agree
believe
with
so. I
you,
believe
and
so
it's a
in this
good
country.
place to wrap up that Nigeria will be a better place. I want to say thank you, Abayomi, Shiwaju Abayomi, okay?
welcome.
And of course, Dickson Osajie for being with me this morning all
Thank you.
through. We call it a wrap here on Off the Press. We'll do this again Monday to Friday, 8:30 here on Plus TV Africa. I remain Amaka Oko is saying, have yourselves a great day again.